Hello. It's going to be a bit of a weird video because I don't usually do live commentary that is serious, so basically I'm here to talk about Eula's animations because there's been some complaints lately about the first two animations not exactly transitioning into each other very well. I'm not an expert, but I have actually worked on rigging characters, animating them and implementing them into games, and more specifically, I've worked on sword animations. So first, let's demonstrate exactly what the problem is. So as you can see, on her first attack, she ends in this pose here. And then her second attack instantly swaps to the other side. If you compare this to, say, Beidou, even though there is a bit of a jump, there is like a natural flow between the two attacks. It's the same with every other character. Well, at least the ones that I have that I can test. Whereas Eula does not have this, and this is the complaint. So you can see there is that sudden skip between. Now, my personal opinion is it's fine. I think the reason they've done it is they want to have this pose here. And the issue is it's extremely hard to go from that position into another attack. Because it's more of an ending pose. Like her final combo should really end in something like that. But obviously it ends like that. The way you could fix this is when she attacks, she continues. When she goes into the next attack, she then has to do a clockwise turn into the next position, which would be, I don't know how to demonstrate it, but it's like the first frame of the second attack. But to do that, she would have to actually turn beforehand. Razor kind of does this on one of his attacks. Oh, it's his second one. So as you can see, he does like a turn into it, which actually looks fine. The problem with Eula, though, is the position of the sword is actually in front of her, whereas the ending is behind, and then the position is like the arms crossed over her. So when she attacks here, she's in like an open pose, and then she's got to somehow get into that closed pose, which is that one. Which would be better if she was attacking from, if we're looking this way, it'd be better if she's attacking from her right to her left with that first attack for that to actually work. So the only way you could actually fix this animation, in my opinion, without messing up game feel, which is something I'll talk about in a minute, is by actually changing this first animation entirely. But the issue here is Eula's aesthetic design is based around her dancing. So they've chose poses where she always ends as if she's in a dance, of course, like poses that you'd find in whatever dance it's inspired by. So that one, and that one, that one, that one, and then just whatever that is, for it to flick her hair. So by changing that animation, you're obviously going to lose that pose, which is basically shows a lot of a character. And what you end up doing, instead of having an open pose there, you're going to have a closed pose, which is the start of the second attack, where her body's kind of more enclosed, which obviously doesn't look as good in a dance or whatever. To display a dancing figure, I guess. Obviously, like Razor, how he does the turn, you could obviously just fix it like that. But the issue you have there is you got to consider how quick the first two attacks come out. And for her to go into that attack, you now need to create anticipation between the two, like a transition between the two. And you lose a bit of the anticipation of that second attack at the start. or you basically lose either anticipation or you lose game feel, where you actually have to extend the duration between the attacks, and then her combo feels less punchy. And yeah, that's the issue you've got. You've got to kind of choose between the aesthetic of this pose and then the anticipation between the two. So I think the reason they've gone for this here is so that you can basically have the best of both worlds. And most people won't even notice that. I mean, I've done these like animations, and I've tried to get them all to blend into each other, and also implemented them into games as well. That stuff kind of gets hard because you've got to obviously plan ahead. They could have probably designed the entire thing to actually work seamlessly from the get-go like this. But the issue you have now is they're not going to be able to fix it without changing that pose entirely. Alternatively, you're going to have to change every attack after that to all fit seamlessly, because every attack after that is fine. It's just those first two. So you got to change this one. And I personally wouldn't get rid of that one, because out of all the attacks, I think that's one of the best looking attacks there. I mean, if you look at every other character, really, they're actually quite basic. They're just left, right, or they do like a twirl, which, in terms of realism, like you don't really want. I mean, you could probably get away with that in terms of realism, but you know, it's an anime game, so who really cares? Like, the problem here is she turns her back to get an attack in, but she turns so quickly it doesn't even matter. But I think from this pose, you would have a hard time getting into the next pose. I think you would really have a hard time. It might be possible, they might be able to do that. It might actually look a bit better, to be honest, but that end pose is just so... like, it's not a place where you can attack from, really. That's the issue with it. It just ends there. It is just way better to have the game feel than the actual look of things most of the time. I mean, you could probably fix that up and actually make it work and keep the game feel, but it might look a bit jarring because you've got to suddenly turn really quickly into that attack. They do that with some of these attacks, but they end in much better poses. I mean, he ends with his sword right behind him so he can go straight in. So it's almost like it sets him up for the next attack, whereas Eula's attack doesn't do that. It's just too open, and it just doesn't set it up correctly. So yeah, that's my thoughts anyway. I don't think they should change it. I kind of really like this pose. I think it really suits her. They might be able to fix it, but I don't know. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think they should change it? What could they do to fix it? I don't really see how they could without actually completely removing the animation and putting in a new one, or changing the second one somehow that it can transition. This seems like it's a bit of a big thing to change, to be honest. Anyway, bye bye.